People think youth fades with time, but what if it actually fades with self-betrayal? People often equate youth with appearance. They look at smooth skin, bright eyes, or unlined faces and nod in approval, thinking, here is someone who is young, but the truth is far more subtle and far more profound. Youth is not a chronological measurement. It is not something that can be preserved in bottles, creams, or workout routines. Youth is a state of integration, a harmony between all the parts of oneself. It is the way the inner world aligns with the outer life, a silent cohesion that radiates from within. Consider the face of someone who has lived without reflection. They may have few wrinkles, but there is a heaviness in the eyes, a stiffness in their posture, a subtle collapse in the corners of their mouth. Time may not yet have left its mark in visible lines, but it has left its mark elsewhere in the fracture of their inner life. Conversely, there are people who carry years of experience, struggle, and grief, yet they appear vibrant, alert, and alive. The difference is not skin deep. It is the integration of their inner conflicts. Their life is a coherent story, not fragmented by avoidance, denial, or self-betrayal. Integration begins with honesty. It begins with the courage to see oneself clearly, to acknowledge both light and shadow, the parts of our psyche that we ignore or deny, our fears, our impulses, our hidden desires, do not disappear when we push them away. They accumulate energy in the psyche, creating tension that eventually shows up in posture, expression, and energy. A person who refuses to confront their shadow may appear tense, hardened, and prematurely aged. Meanwhile, a person who faces these hidden aspects and allows them a place in their consciousness maintains a flow of vitality. They look younger not because time has forgotten them, but because their inner world is alive, fluid, and whole. Youth also thrives in those who preserve the capacity for wonder and curiosity. It is easy to assume that maturity and fascination are opposites, that growing older necessitates abandoning the sense of awe that accompanies childhood. But the truly youthful person does not abandon this inner spark. They continue to learn, explore, and engage with life openly. Their minds remain elastic. They allow new experiences, ideas, and emotions to enter without immediate judgment. This adaptability is an outward sign of an inward youthfulness. The person who stops growing internally stops radiating energy externally, even if their face appears unmarked by age. Another aspect of integration is emotional honesty. Many adults age faster because they suppress emotion, believing that composure requires numbness. Anger, grief, or longing is tucked away, and the body carries the weight of what is unspoken. This repression calcifies in the nervous system, and over time it reshapes both face and body. By contrast, those who allow themselves to feel, to process, and to express naturally retain a liveliness that is unmistakable. Emotional integration, the acceptance and expression of one's full range of feelings, creates a vitality that is reflected in posture, expression, and energy. It is a subtle signature that others perceive, even if they cannot name it. The integration of the self is also a dance with the inner child, the original source of curiosity, play, and imagination. This inner child is often dismissed, buried beneath responsibility, social expectation, or fear of judgment. But when nurtured and acknowledged, it becomes a reservoir of creativity and resilience. People who remain connected to their inner child maintain a lightness and adaptability that mirrors the vitality of youth. They approach life with energy that comes not from denying time, but from embracing the wholeness of experience. They laugh more freely, move more fluidly, and respond to the world with spontaneity. This is not mere playfulness. It is an integrated self that has not fractured under pressure. Integration also involves reconciliation with past experiences. Pain, loss, and regret are inevitable in life, but their impact depends on how they are processed. Those who confront, reflect, and learn from their past transform suffering into wisdom and resilience. Those who avoid or deny it carry its weight silently, and it manifests in the slowing, tightening, or dulling of their physical and emotional presence. Youth, then, is less about denying time and more about absorbing life without being consumed by it, carrying experience in a way that nourishes rather than burdens. Finally, integration manifests in the alignment of values and actions. Many people age faster because their daily life betrays their deepest beliefs or desires. When there is a dissonance between who they are and how they live, energy stagnates, vitality diminishes, and the body carries tension that accelerates the appearance of age. In contrast, those who live authentically, even in small ways, sustain a coherent energy that radiates outward. Their alignment between inner and outer life maintains a sense of freshness, resilience, and youthfulness that goes beyond appearances. Youth is therefore not a number. It is not something that can be measured in years, skin elasticity, or hair color. It is the state of integration, the balance and harmony between all parts of the self, the conscious and unconscious, the playful and serious, the past and present. It is emotional honesty, curiosity, self-reflection, and authenticity woven together into a coherent life. Those who cultivate this inner harmony radiate a vitality that others perceive instantly. They are young, not because they escape the passage of time, but because they have not surrendered the cohesion of their inner world. Your mirror isn't showing age. It's revealing how long you've stayed honest with your inner life. We often underestimate what our face reveals. Most people see it as a simple reflection of genetics, lifestyle, or luck. But in truth, the face is far more than skin, more muscle. It is a mirror of our inner world. Every line, every expression, every flicker of emotion carries a story. The face does not lie. It reflects the contract we make with ourselves, the subtle agreement between who we are, who we pretend to be, and who we allow the world to see. From a young age, we are socialized to negotiate between inner truth and external expectation. We learn which feelings are safe to express and which are dangerous. We are taught to hide disappointment, suppress anger, or control joy. Every time we choose appearance over authenticity, a tiny fissure forms between our inner self and the self we present to the world. Over time, these fissures accumulate, they settle into posture, gesture, and facial expression. A person who habitually hides irritation, masks sadness, or fakes contentment creates tension that the face cannot conceal. This tension, though invisible at first, gradually alters the way others perceive them. Consider someone who consistently sacrifices their own desires to meet the expectations of family, work, or society. They may smile politely, nod in agreement, and speak words of compliance, but each act of self-betrayal leaves a trace. It appears in the subtle tightening around the eyes, a heaviness in the jaw, a slight collapse in the corners of the mouth. The face reflects not the years they have lived, but the compromises they have made. The inner contract of survival and conformity etches itself into their appearance. In contrast, those who honor their inner truth who dare to acknowledge their fears, desires, and imperfections, radiate a different energy. Their face carries authenticity. Their expressions are not rehearsed. They are spontaneous and aligned with inner reality. Even in the presence of struggle, they maintain a vitality that others instinctively recognize. This is why some people appear younger, fresher, or more vibrant than their chronological age would suggest. Their inner contract is one of alignment, not suppression. The face is also sensitive to unresolved conflicts within the psyche. When there is a persistent divide between conscious aspirations and unconscious impulses, the body registers the strain. Eyes may lose their sparkle, smiles may feel forced, and subtle lines may appear around the mouth or forehead. These are not signs of mere aging, they are signs of inner dissonance. The body is keeping score of every unspoken truth, every unmet need, every compromise that the mind tries to ignore. The person who confronts these conflicts, who engages in reflection and integration, allows the face to remain fluid, expressive, and alive. Another layer of this inner contract is emotional honesty. Some individuals hide their feelings to maintain an image of control or perfection. They fear that expressing vulnerability will expose weakness or attract judgment. Over time, this suppression hardens the face. The muscles retain tension, the eyes look guarded, micro expressions of fear or sadness appear even in moments of attempted composure. Conversely, those who honor their emotions, who allow themselves to grieve, to celebrate, to be frustrated, to love, carry a kind of effortless vitality. Their face reflects the movement of energy rather than the stasis of repression. Connection to the inner child is equally important. The child within us represents curiosity, playfulness, and openness. When neglected or silenced, the vitality of the face dims. People who have lost touch with this part of themselves often appear rigid or wary, even if they are physically healthy. Those who maintain that inner relationship through creativity, wonder, and spontaneous joy allow the face to express a fluidity and lightness that defies age. Even suffering has a distinct signature on the face. Pain that is confronted, processed, and integrated leaves subtle traces, often of wisdom and depth. Pain that is denied or buried accumulates in tension, fatigue, and expressionless stares. The inner contract in these cases is not simply about honesty. It is about the courage to live fully, to feel deeply, and to allow the face to be a truthful map of inner experience. Finally, the face communicates alignment between values and action. When a person lives in congruence with their beliefs, the result is a coherence that radiates through posture, gaze, and expression. When life is lived in contradiction to one's own principles, the tension manifests physically and subtly ages the face. This is why some people carry their years lightly, while others appear burdened by far fewer. The face, therefore, is not just a biological canvas. It is a mirror, a ledger, and a map. It reflects the contract each of us keeps with ourselves, the compromises we accept, the truths we honor, the inner battles we confront, and the parts of our psyche we refuse to ignore. It is a living record of authenticity, courage, and integration, revealing more about our inner life than any conversation, resume, or biography ever could. Nothing ages a person faster than pretending to be someone they are not. Time is not the only factor that determines how a person ages. People often look at calendars, birthdays, and milestones as the markers of life's progression, assuming that age is a simple accumulation of years. But there is a deeper truth. Some people age faster than others, not because of time, but because of repression, the lived experience of a person, or the lack thereof, leaves traces far beyond the skin. The lives we do not live, the emotions we deny, the desires we suppress, the truths we avoid, accelerate the physical and psychological wear of existence. Repression begins quietly. It is rarely dramatic. As children, we learn which feelings are acceptable and which are dangerous. We are taught to hide sorrow, mask anger, or control excitement. In school, in family, in society, we internalize rules about what is safe to express. Over time, this internal censor grows more sophisticated, more controlling. We learn to suppress not only outward expression, but inward impulses, creating a divide between the life we are allowed to live and the life that calls to us. This divide is not harmless. Every suppressed feeling, every denied desire, every avoided confrontation with the self is energy that is stored rather than expressed. The body and mind are not separate from these energies. They carry them, absorb them, and eventually manifest them as tension, stiffness, and fatigue. A person who habitually represses becomes like a reservoir of undrained water, slowly creating pressure in every joint, every facial muscle, every posture. The result is premature aging, not of the calendar, but of the living organism itself. By contrast, those who live fully, even with fear or uncertainty, maintain a remarkable vitality. They allow emotions to flow, thoughts to expand, and experiences to shape them rather than constrict them. Living a life aligned with inner truth is not always easy. It requires courage to face discomfort, disappointment, or rejection. But the payoff is significant. Energy circulates rather than stagnates. The body remains fluid, and the face retains its lightness. A person who lives fully radiates presence in a way that transcends chronological age. Repression also stunts emotional resilience. Those who avoid pain, grief, or conflict in their inner life often appear calm externally, but the suppression creates hidden fractures. Stress accumulates unnoticed. Anxiety, unresolved anger, and fear become habitual companions. Over time, the nervous system, the muscles, and even the skin bear witness to the cost of avoidance. Lines appear in unexpected places, posture loses its flexibility, and a subtle heaviness sets into the expression. These are signs not of time, but of what has been unspoken, unprocessed, and unlived. In contrast, those who confront and integrate the full spectrum of their inner experience develop a resilience that is visible. Joy, sadness, passion, disappointment, these emotions, when acknowledged and processed, do not break a person. They enhance presence, create depth, and maintain an energy that others perceive as youthfulness or vitality. Living fully is not about avoiding pain. It is about engaging with life so completely that repression never has the space to take hold. Repressed lives also affect creativity, curiosity, and spontaneity. Suppression of impulses and desires is not neutral. It diminishes the capacity to imagine, to play, to engage deeply with the world. Life becomes routine, predictable, and narrow. Those who continually adapt, explore, and respond to life's challenges without shutting down maintain flexibility in mind, body, and spirit. Flexibility preserves vitality. Rigidity accelerates decline. Moreover, repression limits the authenticity of relationships. When a person conceals feelings, desires, or opinions, they interact with others from a mask rather than from a true self. This not only creates subtle tension and stress, but also reduces the richness of connection. Deep relationships, which nourish the soul and support vitality, are harder to sustain when essential aspects of self are hidden. Conversely, those who allow themselves to be known, even imperfectly, experience the regenerative power of authentic connection. Their inner energy translates outward, maintaining a sense of life that is resilient to chronological aging. Another factor is self-forgiveness. Repressed individuals often internalize judgment and criticism, believing that their impulses or mistakes are unacceptable. This internalized judgment produces subtle but constant stress. People who accept themselves, embrace imperfection, and act in alignment with their core values create a psychological space where energy can circulate freely. Their lives are lived rather than merely endured, and that difference is visible in posture, expression, and overall vitality. Finally, it is important to recognize that living fully requires confronting fear, not avoiding it. Fear, when acknowledged and faced, becomes a teacher rather than a prison. Repression allows fear to harden into habits, rigidity, and premature aging. Those who live bravely, allowing both shadow and light to coexist, maintain a fluidity that the world unconsciously recognizes. Their age becomes a number only on paper, not in presence, energy, or vitality. The child within you doesn't disappear with adulthood. It disappears with fear. From the moment we are born, the child within us begins to shape who we are. It is the source of curiosity, wonder, imagination, and spontaneity. It is the part of us that laughs without reason, asks questions without hesitation, and approaches life with open eyes and an open heart. But as we grow older, this vital presence is often buried, layered beneath the weight of responsibility, expectation, the social conditioning. The child archetype never truly disappears. It simply retreats, hidden beneath the masks we adopt and the roles we perform to survive and succeed. Society rarely encourages adults to remain connected with their inner child. We are taught to be serious, to be rational, to plan, and to control. Emotional expression is often restricted to socially acceptable norms, and curiosity can be dismissed as nada vitae. Over time, these pressures teach the inner child that it is unsafe to be fully seen. It learns to shrink, to hide, and to accommodate the rules of the external world. The result is not just a loss of playfulness, but a loss of energy, creativity, and vitality that affects every aspect of life. When the child archetype is buried, the body and mind bear witness. There is a stiffness in posture, a guardedness in expression, a subtle heaviness in movement. People who have suppressed their inner child often appear older than their years. Their eyes lose the sparkle of wonder, their voices lose the spontaneity of joy. Even their decision-making can be cautious, calculated, and risk-averse, because the buried child no longer whispers, explore, play, take a chance. Instead, the adult self dominates, cautious and rigid, while the vibrant inner source of creativity and vitality lies dormant. Conversely, those who maintain a connection to their inner child radiate energy that transcends chronological age. They are not childish in a careless sense. They do not ignore responsibility or logic, but they retain the capacity for play, curiosity, and emotional openness. They approach challenges with a fluidity and flexibility that others envy. The inner child provides resilience, the ability to recover from setbacks with optimism, and the capacity to remain engaged with life's possibilities even in adversity. This is why some people appear ageless, not because they have avoided stress or aging, but because they have preserved the vitality of this inner archetype. The process of reconnecting with the child within is not always comfortable. Buried emotions, fears, and unresolved experiences from childhood often resurface. This can include grief, shame, or long suppressed desires. To truly honor the inner child, a person must face these shadows and allow themselves to experience and integrate them. Emotional courage is required to revive that playful, spontaneous, and imaginative energy that has been silenced. Yet this confrontation with the buried self is also deeply regenerative. Energy that was locked in suppression begins to flow. Creativity surges, curiosity awakens, the body loosens, posture brightens, and the face begins to reflect liveliness once thought lost. The child archetype is also deeply connected to authenticity. When it is buried, people are more likely to perform roles they believe are expected rather than act from the fullness of who they are. They may excel in conformity, achievement, or social success. But there is often a subtle hollowness, a sense that something essential has been abandoned. Those who nurture the child within do not lose ambition or seriousness. Rather, they gain a depth of presence and richness in life experience. Their inner world vibrates with vitality, and that energy carries outward in ways that others intuitively recognize. Play is not frivolous. Wonder is not naïve. Imagination is not childish. These are not optional luxuries. They are the very mechanisms through which the psyche rejuvenates itself. The inner child holds the ability to transform pain into creativity, isolation into curiosity, and boredom into exploration. When fully alive, it fuels a sense of engagement that prevents stagnation, keeps energy circulating, and protects against the subtle collapse that comes with repression. Even relationships are influenced by the child archetype. Those who have buried this inner presence often struggle with intimacy, vulnerability, and spontaneity. They may cling to predictability or guard themselves against emotional risk. People who honor and integrate their inner child, however, approach relationships with openness, adaptability, and playfulness. Their presence invites trust and curiosity, allowing connection to flow with less tension and more vitality. Ultimately, the inner child is a source of ongoing renewal. It carries the capacity to awaken, wonder, sustain creativity, and maintain a sense of lightness in life that resists the passage of time. When it is buried, energy stagnates, emotional tension accumulates, and the outer expression of life begins to harden. When it is nurtured, the inner child becomes a fountain of vitality that shapes how we move through the world, how we engage with others, and how we inhabit our own bodies and minds. It is a presence that never truly dies, but requires recognition, courage, and integration to continue shaping the fullness of life. Some people age year by year, others age only when they stop evolving. Age is often measured in years, birthdays, and calendars. We tend to think of growing older as an inevitable march marked by wrinkles, gray hair, and slowing bodies, but true aging is far more nuanced. Some people grow older in the sense that their vitality diminishes, their curiosity wanes, and their presence becomes rigid and predictable. Others, however, grow deeper. They accumulate not just experiences, but wisdom, emotional resilience, and richness of presence. Their life, though it progresses chronologically, expands in depth, intensity, and meaning. The difference lies not in time, but in how the inner life is nurtured and engaged. Those who grow older in the conventional sense often live superficially. They move through the world guided by habit, obligation, and expectation rather than conscious engagement. Their focus is often on maintaining appearances, avoiding discomfort, or conforming to social norms. Over time, this approach narrows perception, constrains emotion, and suppresses authentic expression. Life becomes repetitive, predictable, and constrained. Even if their bodies remain healthy and unlined, the inner life contracts, leaving the person feeling fatigued, emotionally brittle, and prematurely aged. Their energy becomes static rather than dynamic, and their presence loses the vitality that can only come from engagement with the depth of life itself. Conversely, those who grow deeper embrace the totality of their experience. They confront challenges, embrace uncertainty, and explore the full range of their emotions. They reflect on their experiences rather than running from them. Every encounter, success, failure, joy, or pain becomes a building block for internal richness. The person who grows deeper is not immune to suffering or disappointment, but they approach it with a willingness to learn, integrate, and transform. This integration is a form of alchemy that converts adversity into wisdom, inertia into movement, and experience into presence. One key factor that differentiates those who grow deeper is self-awareness. They actively observe themselves, their patterns, and their motives. They notice where they react automatically and where they can respond consciously. This reflective practice fosters emotional maturity, adaptability, and depth of insight. By contrast, those who neglect self-reflection drift through life on autopilot. They react impulsively or habitually, letting external circumstances dictate inner states, which contributes to stagnation and the sensation of growing older faster than chronological age would suggest. Another element is courage, the courage to face the shadow, the discomfort, and the truths about oneself that are inconvenient or painful. People who grow deeper are willing to confront fears, acknowledge mistakes, and integrate the parts of themselves they might rather ignore. This inner confrontation prevents fragmentation, promotes coherence, and strengthens resilience. Those who avoid these inner battles may preserve comfort in the short term, but in doing so, they accelerate psychological aging. Energy is consumed by avoidance rather than channeled into growth and presence. Curiosity is also central to growing deeper. The deeply engaged individual never stops exploring, questioning, and learning. They remain interested in life, other people, and the world around them. This sustained curiosity keeps the mind agile, the emotions vibrant, and the spirit lively. Conversely, when curiosity is stifled by routine, cynicism, or fear, the inner world calcifies. The outer signs of aging may follow more slowly, but the inner contraction is palpable. People can appear younger physically, yet seem older in presence, energy, and engagement. Connection to self and others further differentiates those who grow deeper. People who cultivate meaningful relationships, embrace vulnerability, and nurture authentic connections experience a richness that expands their inner life. Others who remain closed off, guarded, or emotionally distant may appear secure or composed externally, but their inner life lacks depth and their vitality diminishes over time. Depth grows from engagement, risk, and emotional investment, whereas superficiality fosters stagnation and inner erosion. Finally, the integration of life experience is crucial. Those who grow deeper take time to reflect, to understand, and to assimilate their experiences into a coherent personal narrative. They see challenges as opportunities for growth, mistakes as lessons, and relationships as mirrors of self-understanding. This internal work transforms the raw materials of life into a form of inner richness that is visible in presence, posture, expression, and demeanor. In essence, depth is cultivated by a conscious engagement with life rather than passive passage through time.